talking about reference and being able to set up image planes inside of both Maya and then push that over to ZBrush as well and have a one-to-one kind of lineup between the two different programs, so that way we know we can push work back and forth between the programs and we're going to get predictable results. So let's go ahead and get started on this process. I'm going to just hop on over to the web browser and show you this knife that I found that I think is pretty very decent in shape. I'm not going to get too specific about what the exact size of this thing is or anything like that. I'm more interested in this from a shape standpoint. So I have done a little bit of work already taking some of these images and then doing a search for that and then going into Photoshop, and you can see this is the image that was pulled from the net, and I took this and I laid this out in a format where you can see the dimensions for this photograph is now 1024 by 512. So those pixel dimensions work pretty good within game engines and things like that, and so I'm just kind of used to those sizes. And it's also twice as wide as it is high. So that's going to be a little bit important a little bit later when we set up our image plane. So it was a matter of taking these images and then laying them out in this kind of fashion here, where you can see that this is kind of this mirror image of this. This is actually the back side of this with this clip, and we've got basically the front and maybe the back side of what this object, this knife, is going to be. Okay, so I'm going to go on over to Maya now, and then within here what I did was go to the quad view. So if you just tap the space bar and you can see you got the top, front, side, you can go here to go and say view, and you can go to image plane and you can import an image in. Let me tell you just real quick about Photoshop, the documents that I saved for this. This is obviously a Photoshop document with layers. I saved a Photoshop document, and then I also, after that, saved a version of this that was a BMP. So if I do File, Save As, and then I choose BMP as the file format for this and say Save, you can see that this is the options I use for Windows and 24-bit like that. I'm going to hit cancel on that. I've already saved that out. That's just a little bit important when you get over to ZBrush, because it's going to want to pull that in as a BMP. Okay, back on over to Maya. So that's a little bit about the file format and then pulling that in. What I did was I wanted to make this blade 6 inches long from the tip to the end here. And so it's kind of easy to go and do a search on the web for Google, and you can do inches to centimeters conversions. And so this equals out to roughly 15.25 centimeters for that. So what I did for that was just went and created a box where if I go create polygon primitives and do a cube and do the option box, I just did a width, height, and depth of 15.25 on each one of those, then close that. And then after that, I took this and it was a pure box and just scaled this down to 0.5 right here like this, and then that gave me the dimensions of that box, where the box was twice as long as it was high, and then just going up to modify freeze transformations. And so then that gave me a box that I could take my image plane, because this might be some odd particular scale or whatever, and then I was able to go to the side view and tap 4 so you can see in wireframe, and then just take that image plane and then scale it and get it really close to the size here. So I think I did 1.481, somewhere around there. Let's see that, and maybe if I just scaled it up just a little bit, somewhere in there. So it didn't have to be just exactly perfect. It's pretty darn close to the size of that box, and if I want to get in a little bit closer, I could get this right in here like this. And so with that, what I was able to do to get this lined up inside of ZBrush at that point is to take this box, exported this thing out, and so I said File, Export Selection. You can do an OBJ selection type if you wanted, but I used FBX, so either one. Export the selection for this, and then I kicked this out as an FBX and just called it knife_cube like that. And then while I was in ZBrush, to set this up, let me just go ahead and start a new project so I can show you from the very beginning kind of what this looks like. So I'm just going to hit the comma key and then go to Dynamesh Sphere 128. I like that project quite a bit to start things off with. And so what I need to do is have the floor turned on because we're going to use a function within here under draw. So if we go to draw and click and drag and dock this over here, you can see there is a left and right, and you can import an image into there. So I'm going to click this map 1, and then I'm going to click import, and then we'll go find that image that we used. I'm going to put this under image planes, and this is the BMP, and so I'll load that up like this. And then so now you can see here is our our knife that we've got here. Now I need to import in our box, so I'm going to go to Z plugin and then just click and drag that over, and then go to FBX, and I'm going to import in this knife cube like this right here. Okay, so now I've got the cube in here, and then now I've got something to work against with this image plane. So if we go to draw, I do want to talk to you about like a few different ways to get image planes within inside of ZBrush, and I did make a video that kind of talks about that. If we go to this and you do a search for Introduction to ZBrush Image Planes, there's 3 different methods for this, and then we're going to use this floor grid method. So I'm not going to spend tons of time on like exactly how to set this up. I'm just going to give you the rough thing. If you really want to know about image planes and different ways to do that, go take a look at this video, and it'll explain everything you need for that. So we've got this here. I've got this on draw. We've got this fill mode, and we can set it to something like 2. I'm going to tell it to have the image go in front just by clicking this. And you can see this fill mode is just going to give you this like kind of opacity of stuff. So maybe something like this here. You can also go to snap and say snap to mesh, just like that. And you can see the image plane will then snap to the mesh. So I just tap P to turn perspective off, rotate the camera, and hold down shift to kind of get this to line up exactly like this. So then now we've got a cube. I'll tap P for perspective. We've got our cube within here, and we got our subtools, and we've just got this cube with our image plane, and we can save this file out, and we'll go to file and say save as, and then to just save this as a ZBrush file. So then I've got this ZBrush file set up, and then I've also gone into Maya, and I've got this set up as well. And just for a little test, let's go ahead, I know we've already exported the cube out, but let's just make something for the blade really quickly here. So I'm going to go into the modeling subset here and go to mesh tools and say create polygon tool, and I'm going to just click. I'm just going to go like this. This is going to be a really rough shape, just so we know that we can get objects outside of the program. So I'll do a point like this, just hit enter for that, and I'll come here and let's just go ahead and extrude this. So I'll tap 5. Let's just take the cube and I'll hide it, select it, hit Control H, just like that, and I'll take this face and let's just go ahead and extrude the face this way like this and give it a little bit of thickness. And I can take this and go mesh and mirror. I'll do the option box for this. So I'll mirror across the x-axis, and I'll tell it to merge with the original like this. So we got something like that. And just because ZBrush doesn't like end guns and nobody really likes end guns, we can go ahead and select this face, hit F11, shift right click, and just say triangulate faces just for now, just to do that. And then we can hit F8, delete history, Alt Shift D, and then I'm going to go to mesh and then mirror it across again. So we've got this, and this will be the start of our blade. Alt Shift D. I'm just going to delete history. I like to do that and call this blade maybe proxy, like that. Okay, so we got this, and I'll take this blade proxy and say file, export selection, and put this into my FBX folder and call this blade proxy, like that. Export selection, hop back over to ZBrush like this. And I know If I go to the FBX, I think it's not going to import over the top of this cube, so it'll just import it into the program. So I'm going to minimize this draw here and click and drag down here. I'll go ahead and import, let's just say blade proxy like this, and it should import it in like that. I'm going to go back to the cube, and then now I'm going to append the blade proxy to this like this here. Okay, so I'm going to select the blade proxy and then turn this guy off at that point. And what you'll see is that we are kind of the opposite direction of this. What you see here, this is the left-right part. So what we need to do is actually go under draw, and then we need to go to the left-right, and we can flip that image like that, and you can see everything kind of lines up now at that point for there. There is a horizontal offset, so we got this. Let's put that to 0, and there's a vertical offset like this. Put this to 0, and just go ahead and leave it right there like that. So now we should have a way of kind of moving back and forth between the programs and getting some predictable results for things at that point.